Tonight on The ReidOut.
Politics doesn't have to be a raging fire, destroying everything in its path. Every disagreement doesn't have to be a cause for total war. And we must reject the culture in which facts themselves are manipulated and even manufactured.
President Biden made an appeal for unity in his inaugural address. 1 hour from now, he will not be as gentle. In a primetime address to the nation, the president is expected to call out MAGA Republicans for extremism that threatens our democracy. Contrast that with the former president, who's certainly doing nothing to discourage his supporters' worst impulses. Instead, he's flailing around with nonsense arguments about the classified documents he stole as a judge prepares to make a decision on Trump's request for a special master to decide if he can get the stolen property back or decide what happens to it next. But we begin with the battle for the soul of the nation, the topic of tonight's primetime speech by President Biden. He'll deliver that speech in about an hour in front of Independence Hall in Philadelphia, 1 week after calling his predecessor's vision for America semi-fascist. Biden will make the case that the fate of America's democracy is at stake. Now, here's some of what he plans to say. That MAGA forces are determined to take this country backwards to an America where there is no right to choose, no right to privacy, no right to contraception, no right to marry who you love. He'll also issue this warning that, quote, for a long time, we've reassured ourselves that American democracy is guaranteed, but it is not. We have to defend it, protect it, stand up for it, each and every one of us. The speech will come just hours after the latest legal standoff over the boxes and boxes of classified documents found in the twice impeached former president's private home and golf resort in Florida. Today, we also learned the fate of a former New York police officer who received the longest sentence yet in a January 6th case, 10 years in federal prison for attacking a D.C. police officer with a flagpole and then tackling the officer to the ground and attempting to rip off his gas mask. Also today, the Oath Keepers' top lawyer was arrested on charges related to the attack on Congress. These are some real hefty consequences. But still, the leaders of the insurrection, including the man it was intended to benefit, walk free. In a new interview, Donald Trump said that if he wins back the White House, he will look seriously at full pardons and a government apology for January 6 defendants. An apology not from them, but to them. It's a terrifying glimpse of what a second Trump term would mean for the nation and for the world. We already know what they're capable of. We're still in the midst of it. But their poisonous disregard for democracy, for elections, for the very world we inhabit, for public health and science, their cruel disregard for women and girls robbed of dignity as stories of human tragedies mount. This is only the beginning, which brings us back to the soul of the nation. The rallying cry Biden and Democrats are amplifying 2 months before these pivotal upcoming elections, when voters will decide which vision of America will endure. All it takes is one election, folks, one decision to exert dramatic change in the course of a nation. Never has that fork in the road felt more evident or more perilous. Joining me now is White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre. And Karine, thank you so much for being here. Give us a sense of what we're going to hear from President Biden tonight, because you and I both know that Biden, ran as somebody who could supersede the differences in this country. And instead, he has run into a buzzsaw that included the January 6th insurrection. He has had to readjust his thinking about what could be done and what could be accomplished in partnership with the other side. We just read some of the pretty strong quotes. Is that going to be the tenor of the entire speech?
Well, you got some experts, Joy, of what's in the speech, which is something just to give the American people and your viewers essentially a little bit of what the president is going to talk about, because it's going to be an important moment, an important speech. Look, what you're going to hear from the president tonight are core themes that you've heard from him the last 3 years. As you know, Joy, we've talked about these, the need to protect our democracy, the need to protect our rights, our freedom, how important that is. And he's going to do it at Independence Hall, where those core democracy, that core part of our democracy, our rights, were debated, they were drafted. And that is so important to him to have this in conversation right now. Look, not for about 2 centuries now, more than 2 centuries, America has been a beacon for the world. And now what we're seeing is an assault. And so he's going to lay that out, what that attack has been. He's going to lay out who it is coming from. And he's going to also lay out, what do we do next? How do we move forward? One thing that I know you understand, Joy, is that this president, Joe Biden, is an optimist. So you're going to hear as well how to move forward, how we can come together as a country to make sure that we are fighting indeed for our rights, fighting for our democracy, fighting for our freedom, because we do have a choice to make. You were saying that at the top of your show. There is a choice that has to be made. And so we're going to hear clearly from this president about what that choice is, and he'll lift that out and lay that out for the American people very, very clearly and boldly.
And we're seeing President Biden and the First Lady, Jill Biden, stepping off of Air Force One. You can see that happening right now as he gets to prepare for this speech. They came a bit early. And Karine, I have to ask you this. There is some pretty frightening polling out there that shows a plurality of Americans believe that civil war is likely in this country. Is the White House at this point? You said that Joe Biden is an optimist. It's kind of hard to be an optimist when you have something like 40% of Americans and 54% of Republicans believing civil war is likely. Does the president believe that we could wind up in literal armed conflict with these MAGA Republicans he says threaten our democracy?
Well, here's the thing. When you think about being president of the United States, the way that this president sees this is that the president has to be the strongest voice for our democracy. That's what Joe Biden believes. When it comes to sitting in the Oval Office, when it comes to being here at the White House, you have to be the voice that is the leader and that is fighting for for our democracy. That's what you're going to hear from this president. He's going to continue to fight for our rights. He's going to continue to fight for our freedoms because he believes that is one of the most important jobs that he has. Look, this is a scary time. This is definitely a time that we should all be concerned about. And you see that from majority of Americans. But we also believe that a majority of Americans understand that there is a choice to be made, that we can do this together, that we can stand up to what is in front of us. This extremist part of one party, these MAGA Republicans in Congress, and their agenda that is incredibly dangerous, that is going to set us back, that is going to take away our very rights, our freedoms. So that's what you're going to hear from this president. And he believes we have to do this. He has to have this conversation. He has to be the leader that has that voice because he is the president of the United States.
White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre, I thank you very much for being here this evening. Let's bring in Eugene Robinson, columnist for The Washington Post and an MSNBC political analyst, and Stuart Stevens, former chief strategist for Mitt Romney's 2012 campaign and a senior advisor to the Lincoln Project. Eugene, I want to start with you because, you have covered and written columns about this president for quite a long time. He's been around a long time in American politics, and he always occupied this sort of perfect mean, this median. He is a moderate Democrat. Mm-hmm. So it struck a lot of people as sort of off Joe Biden's brand to talk about fascism on the other side because he's always tried to reach out. What do you make of the fact that he now finds himself giving a speech about whether part of the other party threatens our democracy?
Well, that is off his brand, Joy, but it's the truth. I mean, it's where we are. Remember why he ran for president in the first place. He wasn't going to do it. He saw what the Trump presidency and Donald Trump was doing to the nation, how it was dividing us. He saw the white supremacists in Charlottesville, and he decided that this was a pivotal moment and that our democracy was in peril. And nothing we have seen since would disabuse him of that idea or disabuse anybody of that idea. This is a serious moment. This is a serious election coming up. There'll be another one in 2024. One hopes. But the very process of our democracy and the peaceful transfer of power is threatened when one party, and a lot of one party, refuses to acknowledge the results of free and fair elections. I mean, that's the fundamental problem. The policy issues we can deal with, but you have to acknowledge elections and the peaceful transfer of power. And MAGA Republicans do not recognize that.
You know, and Stuart, it is, you know, Joe Biden has had no choice but to evolve because the Republican Party has devolved in that way. You know, it is, as Eugene says, a party that has a core and that has a base that, I mean, put that poll back up, 54% of whom strong Republicans believe that civil war is likely. And it's not clear that they don't want it. You know, I think that when you see all adults saying they fear civil war, a lot of people fear it. One wonders whether there are some Republicans who wish it. And that puts Joe Biden in a position of having to be a very different kind of president than he intended to be.
Look, I think the greatest danger in moments like this is not to recognize the greatest danger. And I think what the president's doing today is extraordinarily important. You have to go out and recognize what is happening in this country. There are no longer two parties in the sense that we've known them. There was a center-left and a center-right party. There's really one party that still believes in democracy, and you can disagree with some of their policies, but they still believe in democracy. And then there is an autocratic movement. And what we have to realize is that all the elements of a successful autocratic movement are in place for Republicans that want to go this direction. They have the propagandist wing and Fox and all their allies. They have the financiers, vastly wealthy people like Peter Thiel. They have the backing of a major party, the Republicans. And they have shock troops, like the troops that assaulted the Capitol. Every time a democracy slides into an autocracy, those are the elements that are there. And it's a lot better to recognize it now. It's difficult to talk about this. It's sort of like a pandemic because you sound alarmist at the beginning, but at the end, it will prove inadequate.
You're absolutely right.